You know what this video is? This video is the equivalent of going into the crypto market and looking for the top 10 best coins that are going to blow up in a year's time. And that's what this video is, but in the UFC. I feel like these top 10 prospects that I got on this list are all going to make runs for the title. And yeah, let's go through one by one. At number 10, I got Farid Basharat. And he's an undefeated fighter who's a bantamweight who shows a lot of promise. You know, he's not the most exciting of fighters. It's not like he's one of those guys who KOs all his opponents, but he is undefeated. And since Dana White's Contender Series in 2022, he's gone 4-0 in the UFC, and he's even beaten Damon Blackshear, who's everybody knows is a pretty good bantamweight. And this guy has a lot of promise, and I really think in the bantamweight division, this is kind of dead. You know, like for up-and-coming prospects, there's like Mario Bautista, but he's boring as fuck. I think he lost to Jose Aldo, and overall, I just feel like that division needs some new faces. So at number 9, I got Joshua Van, and this list isn't gonna be your typical prospect list that has Caio, Umar, Bo Nickel, Carlos Prates, those guys that everybody talks about already. These are like the no names. Like Joshua Van, he's now getting more of a following, but he's a really good fighter. You know, he's a flyweight, and that division is actually very promising. There's a lot of guys coming up, and Tatsuro Tairo would be a name I'd throw in there that's, you know, very dangerous and good. And I just feel like that division is so slept on when there's so many worse divisions to talk about, like the heavyweight and light heavyweight. And yeah, I just feel like Joshua Van is a perfect guy to throw in that mix of future title contenders. You know, he's 13-2 his overall record. He's 6-1 in the UFC, and yes, he got KO'd by Charles Johnson. And Charles Johnson isn't even the best of fighters, but since he got KO'd, he's been 3-0 since. And he's a fast fighter. In his last fight, he stuffed a lot of takedowns from that Asian dude. Forget his name. But he just looked good. And I feel like if you give him a top 15 fight, he'll most likely win. And I think he's only a year or two from being out of that, you know, title conversation in that division. So it's going to be interesting to see what Joshua Van does. I think number 8 has to be Haider Amil. And this guy's just, he's a beast, bro. When I saw him fight William Gomez, and William Gomez is already a prospect in and of himself. He's a great fighter, and he's fast, and his kicks are lethal, and he stays on the outside. But Haider Amil just kept moving forward, and he's a beast, bro. He's 11-0. He went on the Dana White Contender Series, and that was in 2023, and since then he's gone 3-0. And the featherweight division needs prospects like this. And, you know, there's prospects like Movzar and other guys, but it's just, I'm not going to put somebody like Movzar, who's a fight away from, he could be the next, you know, contender, but he's not going to be. The fact is, the UFC is doing diversity, equity, inclusion, and putting fucking Yair Rodriguez, since they have a UFC Mexico card coming up, they're putting him in front of Movzar. So they're just be based on his race. He's literally getting a jump at the title before Movzar, who's earned the spot. So that's a whole different conversation, but I feel like the featherweight division is in a weird place right now, to where there's not too many title contenders. You know, there's Movzar, there's, I guess, Yair. Gene Silva's coming up, he's a beast. There's Leron Murphy, who I think is trash. I'm not going to say trash, but he's boring as hell. And Arnold Allen's in that division. It's a cool division, and I just feel like Haider Amil he's going to make, you know, a lot of waves in that division soon. I think you got to give him a top 15 fight, and yeah, let's see what he does. At number 7, I got Rinat Fakhretdinov, and this guy's a beast, bro. He beat Brian Battle, and I think we all saw that fight and were shocked at how good Rinat looked. I think he's one of those guys, kind of like Khamzat, that's come into the scene and just dominated. You know, he's a beast, bro. And I want to say 6-0, but I think there was a draw. So he's 5-1-0 in the UFC, and he's a big guy. He's a good sized welterweight. Yeah, he's a welterweight, and bro, the guy's just a beast. Those European dudes, those Eastern European dudes, are just fucking savage, bro. And I'm very curious as to see what his next fight's gonna be. It's like they're slowly building him up, and I think he deserves a top 15 fight. It's just the welterweight division's so stacked right now. Him fighting anybody in the top 15 is gonna be a tough fight. You know, even if it's MVP, Carlos Prates, maybe give him one of the guys that are headed out. Give him Kobe Covington. Give him one of those guys that don't deserve the rankings, and let's see how he does. I think he's a definite threat to that welterweight division. And at number 6, I got Vinicius Oliveira. And I think we all watched that Saeed Nurmagomedov fight that he just had, and he just looked dominant. It was a fight of the night. It looked amazing. It was a great fight. And Vinicius is just a beast, bro. He's 22-3 overall. He went on Dana White Contender Series and had a KO in 2023. So he entered the scene with a lot of hype to him. And then he went 3-0 since then, and he's beaten Ricky Simone and Saeed. And those are not easy guys to beat in that division, bro. The bantamweight division overall, like I said, is kind of dead and needs new faces, and he's the perfect guy to put in that conversation of, future title contenders. And he's a beast, bro. So I definitely think people got to keep him in mind as, one of the top guys coming up. At number 5, I got Tatsuro Taira. I talked about him earlier, and I don't want to put in this list guys who are already in the top 10, but he is relatively new to the scene, bro. He's 6-1 in the UFC, and he's only lost to Brandon Royval, who's arguably the best fighter in that division behind Pantoja. He's beaten Brandon Royval. The only time he lost to anybody other than Pantoja was Moreno, and that's because he had a torn labrum in his shoulder. Royval's a beast, bro, and I think that Tatsuro fight against Royval showed, the levels to how good Tatsuro really is, bro. He was getting pieced up in the 3rd round, and it looked like he was dying, and he showed so much heart to stick through with it and win the 4th. I believe it was the 4th he won, and then lose the fight in the decision when everyone thought he was going to get knocked out. And it didn't look good for him, but he showed so much heart. And even after the fight, Royval was screaming, he's a future champ. I have so much respect for this kid. And, he's a beast, bro. He's super young. He's very promising. His overall record is 16-1. And for your one loss to be against Brandon Royval, the number 1 overall, it's nothing to put your head down about. Like, he's a beast, bro. So Tatsuro Taira had to be in this list. At number 4, I got Xing Ming Yang. And this fucker is dangerous, bro. He's like the Tom Aspinall of the light heavyweight division. The guy's only going to first round. Like, he never sees the 2nd round, bro. He's on a 3-fight first round KO win streak, kind of like Tom Aspinall is. And I think his last 12 fights have all been wins in the 1st round. And his last fight was against Anthony Lionheart Smith, who was on his retirement tour. He was doing his last ever fight. And that's not an easy Anthony Smith to beat. He was fully prepared. He said, I'm going to go out on a high note. It was his last ever fight. It's not like, an easy fight by any means. And he just fucking made easy work of him. This guy's a beast, bro. Zhang, whatever, Ming Yang. He's 19-6 overall. His fights, he's like an exciting fighter. All his fights are going to be quick-paced. For that division, he's fast as fuck. He's dangerous. He has KO power. And I think he's definitely going to be in the top 5 in a year's time. I think he's really that good. So I got him at 4. At 3, I got Gene Silva. And Gene Silva, he's part of that Fighting Nerds group that's just coming up and destroying and killing everybody in the UFC. And I think everybody knew it was going to be a hard test, Gene Silva against Bryce Mitchell, just because Bryce Mitchell's so crafty on the ground, and he couldn't do shit to Gene Silva, bro. Gene Silva looked like a beast. Gene Silva's 16-2 overall. I believe, he came through the Dana White Contender Series, and then since that, he's gone what? Let me see. He's gone 5-0 and all KOs and then 1 submission against Bryce Mitchell. So he's 6-0 since Dana White Contender Series. He's overall, 16-2, but undefeated in the UFC. Like, bro, the guy's only a couple fights from literally being a title contender or being in that title shot. I think you give him Leroy Murphy, you give him Arnold Allen, you give him one of the top guys, and let's see how he stacks up against these top guys. Bryce Mitchell is the top guy in that division, and he made easy work of him, bro. It was impressive to say the least, bro. And yeah, I feel like Gene Silva's got to be in everybody's top 3 of guys who are coming up and future title contenders, because he's a beast, bro. And at number 2, I got Michael Morales. We all just saw that fight last weekend where Michael Morales completely killed Gilbert Burns. And Gilbert Burns has been against JDM, Sean Brady, Bilal Muhammad, Khamzat Chimaev, and none of them, looked as dominant as Michael Morales. Like, Michael Morales is 18-0. He came into the Dana White Contender Series in 2021. And then he has 6 straight wins and back-to-back, KOs, and back-to-back first-round KOs against Magny and Burns. And like, bro, that's impressive, bro. And Michael Morales, he's in that welterweight division where it's so stacked. Bro, I can't talk doing these videos. It's so weird. But yeah, Michael Morales, I think you give him a fight or two, and then he has to be in that title conversation. I think he needs to get a shot at the belt, especially if he beats Ian Gary, Sean Brady, Shavkat, Usman, Buckley. If he beats one of those guys, he definitely deserves a title shot. He's that good, bro. He's 18-0. Bro, the guy's dangerous as fuck. I feel like that everybody's got their eyes on Morales after that last win. And I think before, you couldn't really judge how good he was, because beating Neil Magny, everybody beats fucking Neil Magny. And that poor guy just gets his ass beat. He's like a trash around, pass around hoe. It's fucking constantly getting played and constantly getting destroyed. And yeah, it's rough, but I feel like Michael Morales definitely has to be at the number 1 or 2 spot. At number 1, I got Mauricio Rufy. And Mauricio Rufy is part of the fighting nerds like Gene Silva. And there's an argument to be made that Gene Silva deserves to be number 1 before Rufy, but bro, when you watch Rufy fight, he's the only guy in the whole of the UFC that you could compare to peak Conor McGregor, where he's so fast, so slick, his placement is so perfect, his head movement. I think this guy is not only going to be a future title contender, but he's going to be a title winner and have a long reign as champion at the lightweight division. I have that much faith in Rufy. He's really that good. He's 12-1. He joined the Dana White Contender Series in 2023, got a KO, and then he's gone 3-0 since. And he just got a nasty first-round KO against King Green. And we saw Paddy Pimblett against King Green, and that was impressive. Like that was a good submission win, but that was because King Green shot like an idiot and went into Paddy's domain, which is on the ground. Like Paddy's really good at jiu-jitsu, but bro, like Rufy just fucked up Green, bro, with that spinning leg kick. Like, bro, that was so dirty, bro. It hit the top of his temple. Guy flew. He was out. King Green was out. And Mauricio Rufy is a real problem. I feel like you gotta give him a top 15 fight. You gotta give him even a top 10. I think if you give him Beneil Dariush, Renato Moicano, you could give him one of the guys lower end like Grant Dawson, BSD. But I just feel like Mauricio Rufy runs through all these fucking guys. He's that good, bro. And overall, I feel like he's got to be number 1 on this top 10 prospect list. And there's so many other guys in the conversation, but I didn't want to make it, a prospect list of guys who are only a fight or 2 away from getting the belt. I could say Kyle, I could say Umar, I could say Prates, I could say all the guys that everybody already says. And I wasn't going to say Bo Nickel or Peyton Tablock because those guys are so fucking overrated. But yeah, overall, I feel like this is a really solid list from Rufy, Morales, Gene Silva, Zhang Yingyang, Tatsuro Taira, Vinicius Oliveira, Renat Fakhretdinov, Haider Emil, Joshua Van, and Farid Basharat. These guys are all so promising and they have a huge career in front of them. So yeah, I'm curious what you guys think. If you guys think I missed a prospect who's had to be mentioned. But overall, I'm pretty proud of this list. I think these are all guys who are in the future. I believe half of these guys can realistically hold belts. And yeah, I'm curious what you guys think. So drop a comment and yeah, thanks for watching.